Today, we're on a mission. We're going to decode the blueprint of power. We're heading way back in time to figure out what exactly made ancient African societies so powerful, so creative, and so incredibly resilient.
So, let's just jump right in. What is the recipe for a truly great civilization? I mean, really think about it. What's that secret sauce that lets a society not just survive, but thrive? To build incredible things, to innovate, and to leave a mark that lasts for centuries? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore. And we'll be looking at some of the most amazing empires in history to find our answer.
Okay, so ingredient number 1, the absolute bedrock for everything else, you gotta have a solid foundation. And that foundation is all about leadership and order.
And this really gets to a basic truth here. It didn't matter if it was a huge kingdom or a busy little city-state. There was a system. You had leaders who called the shots, made the laws, made the big decisions. And yeah, that created a hierarchy, for sure. But that structure, that was absolutely crucial. It's how you managed land, how you organized massive groups of people, and how you got the stability you needed for everything else to even happen.
So, what does that kind of leadership actually look like on the ground? Well, let's take a look at Askia the Great from the Songhai Empire. This guy was a genius. He didn't just rule with an iron fist. No, he was a brilliant administrator. His playbook was simple but so effective. First, he made the government run better. Then, he set up a tax system that actually worked. And by doing that, by being organized and smart, he brought stability to this huge, sprawling empire. It's like he wasn't just a ruler. He was an architect, building a society that was meant to last.
Now, order also came from having clear laws. And a lot of these societies did something really clever. They used two systems at once. You had Sharia law, which was based on Islamic principles, and that handled the big stuff, like trade, property, things like that. But then you also had customary law. These were the traditional, local rules that people had followed for generations. It handled the day-to-day stuff. This two-track approach was super flexible, and it meant society was stable, but could also respect different local traditions. Okay, so you've got your foundation of leadership and order. It's stable, but a building can't just sit there, right? It needs power and engine to make it go. And that brings us to our next big ingredient, the incredible power of trade. And you can see the link so clearly here. If you controlled valuable stuff, you had power, period. The Mali Empire is the perfect example of this. Their influence wasn't some kind of magic. It was built on something very real, total control over the West African gold trade. Back then, if you controlled the gold, you pretty much controlled your own destiny.
And believe me, they were not shy about showing off this wealth. I mean, the story of Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca is famous for a reason. It wasn't just a spiritual trip. Oh no, it was a massive power move. He gave away so much gold along the way that he actually tanked the economy in some places. He was showing the world just how rich Mali was, literally putting his empire on the map for people in Europe and the Middle East. It was a statement.
But this makes you wonder, right? Is power really just about hoarding a bunch of gold? Or is the real legacy of wealth, the stuff that truly lasts, found in what you do with it, what you build with it, what you create?
And that leads us to the final piece of the puzzle. This might be the most important ingredient of all. This is the thing that takes a strong kingdom and turns it into a great civilization. It's the ultimate superpower, the power of ideas, of knowledge, and of culture.
So remember all that gold we were talking about? This is where a lot of it went. It wasn't just sitting in a vault, it was invested. It was used to build incredible centers of learning like Timbuktu. Suddenly you have this city that's a magnet for the smartest people around. Scholars, scientists, you name it. The libraries there weren't just dusty old buildings. They were places where knowledge was being preserved, debated, and created. And when you invest in brains, you get a smarter, better-run society. It all connects.
And you can see this power of ideas pop up in all these amazing ways. Just look at Great Zimbabwe, these huge, masterful stone walls, built so perfectly they didn't even need mortar to hold them together. Incredible, right? Or think about the churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia. They weren't built up, they were carved down out of solid rock. Then you have the griots, who were basically living, breathing libraries. These storytellers held the history and culture of their people in their minds. And it wasn't just big monuments. It was practical stuff too, like developing medicines from herbs that made life better for everyday people. This is what it looks like when creativity becomes a symbol of power.
All right, so let's put it all together. You've got organized leadership, powerful economic engine, and this incredible cultural superpower. What happens when you mix all of that? You get something that lasts. You get a real legacy.
And there you have it, the blueprint.
It's not just one of these things, it's how they all work together. Leadership gives you stability. Trade gives you the money, the fuel. But the secret sauce, the real magic, is that they use that money to invest in knowledge and culture. And that stuff lasts way longer than gold. These pillars didn't just stand next to each other, they propped each other up. That, right there, was the secret.
So, that was their blueprint for greatness, a proven model for how to build a society that's strong, creative, and can weather any storm. Which brings us to a really big question for all of us, right now. If that was their blueprint, what kind of blueprint are we building today?